Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you guys are joining. I am very excited to have Vlad today in our expert talks. He is a principal product manager right now in OfferUp, and he'd been working as a product manager at eBay as well. He is an ardent YouTuber and likes to share a lot of knowledge regarding product management, regarding building data science products, etc. So I'm very glad to have you here, Vlad.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ash. Yeah, I'll happy to talk about product, data science, software engineering, everything in between, and take as many questions as I can and answer them all.
Amazing. So, do you want to maybe start with talking about your experience being in the product space in like two of the most amazing companies in product?
Yeah, sure. So again, my story is I'd say maybe a little bit unusual because first of all, I'm an immigrant, right? I moved from Ukraine to United States, which wasn't pretty easy. I had to deal with a lot of issues. But yeah, I'm a former software engineer, right? I worked for an agency. I worked for small startups, big startups. So then I landed a gig at eBay. At eBay, I worked on internal tools. I worked on search. So having that experience at a big company definitely helps. Because first of all, you work on some cool products for millions of people, and you get to build some great things. And then later, if you decide to get a job at a different company, obviously having a brand name in your resume helps. That's like, I think a lot of people know that. A lot of people secretly want to get a job at a big company just so that they can have more choices. So I think in that sense, I was lucky to get that job pretty early in my career. But yeah, now I work as a principal PM at OfferUp. My main focus right now is business intelligence and our data products. So basically, our data warehouse, data platform, and our data science products.
That's really amazing. So, when we started talking about product management in data science, there's a lot of conflicting questions. Like there's a lot of confusion that exists right now, where people talk about like what's product management versus program management or project management. So, can you shed some lights on that and like tell us about what's the difference? What are the like roles and responsibilities for individuals in these three different roles? And how do they contribute to a data science product?
Yeah, sure. So it's actually one of the favorite holy wars on LinkedIn and Twitter, where someone calls when someone is a product manager and someone calls them project manager, and like my mom still thinks, and my mom and grandma, they still think that I'm a project manager. But again, I don't really get triggered easily when that happens, but some people do, which is fine. But again, like I think even if you're a product manager and someone calls you a project manager, like don't be offended. Just explain to people what you do. And again, in a nutshell, there are differences between product, project, and program management. But the thing is here, like in many companies, especially smaller companies, the differences are not very noticeable simply because the roles are way less defined. And even if you get hired as a product manager, you're still going to do a lot of project management work, maybe program management if the company is a little bigger. So it's kind of like in between everything. But in general, like if we look at companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, eBay, pre-IPO startups, most of these companies, they have these roles, more defined. And the primary distinction I see is, first of all, product managers focus more on developing strategy, vision, go-to-market plans, and obviously thinking about customer problems, right? So the most important thing that product manager does is product manager crisply communicates the requirements and user problems to the stakeholders, to the engineering team, to the management, designers, to make sure that the team builds the right product. I think that's the main goal of a product manager, to do everything in their power to enable the team to build the right product. That's what product managers do, right? And There are also things like, okay, product managers think about customer problems, but at the same time, they should think about how this can help the company they're working for grow, how this can help the business line grow. So there is always that trade-off between doing what's right for the user and doing what's right for the company, right? And some people still think that product managers should do whatever is necessary to do the right thing for the customer. I slightly disagree with that because, again, different companies have different goals. So sometimes you need to prioritize company needs instead of user needs. But again, in general, product managers enable other teams and solve problems. Project managers, on the other hand, focus more on processes. They focus on delivering the product, on time. I'm sorry, delivering the project on time with the right quality, and keep the scope in check, making sure that there is no scope creep. And that's where the confusion stems from, I believe, because many product managers actually do. Many product managers do project management at their companies, which is fine. I think a lot of product managers know how to do project management, but when company becomes bigger, they usually hire product managers to be more strategic, and act like an enabler, spend more time fixing customers' problems, and they hire project managers to manage processes and Jira tickets, making sure that the team works together, and that there is no scope creep, that the quality standards are met, stuff like that. Program management, on the other hand, I would say it's somewhat like project management, but at a bigger scale. So what program managers do, they manage very large interconnected initiatives. So for example, if you work for a big company, right? Big companies have multiple projects going at the same time, multiple features. And all of these things are built by multiple teams at the same time, right? For example, let's say we have data warehouse, data platform, data science team. We have client engineering team, ads service, backend engineering team, whatever. And I'm just making stuff up. But all of these teams need to work together, and they all have sometimes conflicting projects and dependencies, right? And program managers operate across all of these teams to make sure that all the dependencies are resolved and that the project becomes successful at the end, and that it gets delivered. So that's, I'd say, the main goal of program management, right? I hope this helps everyone understand the differences between these three roles.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this sort of like clarifies about, like how different companies actually approach a product from different views. So thank you so much for that. And Lad, when we're specifically talking about product management, right? Like some of the things that you mentioned is working with like strategizing things and talking to customers, defining the problem, understanding the market, creating launch plans, etc. So when we are actually looking at all these aspects of a product manager, what are some of the skill sets do you think people can work on in terms of like either be product or in technology or in terms of design, etc., that they can work on before getting into a role?
Got it. Yeah, great question. So again, product management it's one of those roles that, again, as I said, can look very different depending on the company you work for. But obviously, there are some general skills that everyone needs to pick up. So I think first skill that every product manager that wants to be successful, like the first skill they need to develop, is customer empathy and understanding how to find real customer problems and customer pains.
Mhm.
And in reality, this is not easy, right? Especially if you're working like for a consumer company where customers most of the time they don't really know what they want, right? If you
Yeah.
work for B2B, becomes a little easier, but still, knowing how to ask the right questions,
Yeah.
knowing how to look at data, right, and analyze feedback, analyze patterns of usage, and based on that, creating the roadmap, right, and understanding exactly what problems you're trying to solve and what problems need solving, right? This is probably one of the most crucial skills for any product manager to develop, and it's one of those skills. I love using poker analogy, right? it's super easy to learn how to play poker. You can probably do it like in less than an hour, learn all the combinations, learn how to play, but it takes years to master. Because
Yeah.
again, anyone can learn how to play poker, but good luck playing with pros and winning. And the same applies to this skill in product management. It's easy to talk to customers. It's kind of easy to understand high level where their problems are. But when you're trying to actually solve some real problems, you need to dig a lot deeper. And that's where the real, product management expertise shines. That's the difference between, junior PMs and senior PMs. Senior PMs really know how to find the right problem, right? So
Yeah.
I think problem is the main focus. The second 101 skill, I would say, is prioritization. Again, after you know what problem you're solving, knowing like what problems need solving first, because you can't solve all the problems right away. So you need to know what should be prioritized. And again, there are lots of frameworks that you can use for that. I don't want to go into that right now. But yeah, basically that's another essential skill. And I would say other skills depend on the company. Again, obviously, I think every product manager should be well versed in data analysis. Like, obviously, you don't have to be like a professional data analyst or data scientist, but you need to understand how to look at data, how to draw insights from data, how to make decisions. Look at charts, create pivot tables, maybe even know some SQL, just again so that you don't go and bother data analysts all the time to run SQL queries for you.
Yeah.
Right. So that's going to be another skill. And other skills, I'd say, depend. Actually, I forgot one more skill. I think another skill that is very important is having general business acumen. Again, understanding a little bit of business you're in, a little bit of financing, legal, policy, these types of things. Because again, as a product manager, you're probably going to be leading specific part of your product or the whole product, and if you don't know the business, you can't do it. Other skills like data science, software engineering, design. Again, you might not need all of them, because at some companies, like for example, if you're building an API for engineers, obviously you need to be very technical. You need to know APIs, system design, maybe a little bit of coding, right? But if you're building software for designers, then you need to have more design skills. You don't necessarily need technical skills. So it depends on the company. But hope this overview is helpful.
That makes sense. So now that we were talking about like having that, having that skill of working across different organizations, or like different business units in the organizations, do you want to probably like talk about how like people can learn when they're like shadowing the sales team, or like the customer support calls, or with like legal team and like the designers and engineers?
Yeah. I think the best way to learn, as you already said, shadowing people and taking a lot of notes. But again, it also depends on your goal. Like, if your goal is to understand the product, then you probably just need to use the product more, right? If your company, and some companies, like, there are also, I want to say one thing. Based on my observations, there are three types of companies: sales-driven, product-driven, and engineering-driven companies. So if you're working for a product-driven company, then you need to be an expert on the product. You need to know all ins and outs and how people use it. If you work for a sales-driven company, for example, like, I don't know, Salesforce is known to be very sales-driven. They even have the word sales in their name. I know also a company, Looker, that was acquired by Google, is very sales-driven. So, these products, they have a lot of competitors, right? And these competitors offer very similar functionality. So I think it's hard for them to compete on the product front. So they end up competing on the sales front, right? That's where it's important to really understand the differences between your product and your competitors' products, and know your key selling points. That's where it makes sense to sit on sales calls and listen to salespeople, and maybe contribute, and maybe even try selling something along with them, right? And obviously, the same thing applies to engineering products. If you're working on an API, or you're optimizing, you're working for Google, optimizing Google search algorithm, I would say you need to know how that works, right? If you have zero knowledge about system design, about architecture, and different search results or sorting algorithms, you're probably not going to do good. So you better sit down with engineers and let them explain to you how everything works.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, like when we talk about product management, especially, that's in everybody's mind, that seems to be a much senior role, because we need to, like this is what I also like used to think, right? Like that for somebody to be a product management manager, they have to first understand how the product works. So they have to have hands-on experience on building these products as engineers or as data scientists. And soon enough, when they understand how these like different products play together in fulfilling the business needs of any organization, that's when they can move into a product management role. But I've also seen a lot of folks starting off their career as product managers. So how do you differentiate, like when do we need this work experience to be a product manager, or can people actually learn those skills and like practice on those skills and hone those skills and directly get into a product management role, rather than going through the traditional like software engineer route to being a product management?
Yeah, yeah. I guess what you described actually pertains to more senior product management roles, like again, understanding the product, knowing the strategy. But there are still lots of opportunities for more junior PMs or like product analysts. The key difference here, I would say again, I think if you want to be a product manager, if you want to be like a PM intern or
Yeah.
like associate PM, you don't really need to have a lot of skills like design, software engineering, anything like that. Simply because interns and associate PMs, they mostly focus on a lot of small iterative improvements, and they work with senior PMs already. So what I see them doing, and I worked with a lot of them at eBay and OfferUp, and I led a team of PMs myself before that. So more junior product managers focus on actually building features. Like for example, let's say, I don't know, we're launching a new promotion, we need to build a UI for that, or
Yeah.
we need to obvious example, like repaint the button because customer researchers told us that the new color works
Yeah.
better. they,
Yeah.
they, they focus more on these smaller things, building smaller features, building these iterative things, which again, I think in order to do that, yes, you need to have some basic understanding of the product, but you don't need to be a software engineer or
Mhm.
a designer, because also you have these people on your team, so you can leverage their experience and their research. So
Yeah.
your job becomes a lot easier. But when you become more senior, you're not in charge of building specific features anymore. And that's where I found myself in, right? I'm
Yeah.
not at this point, since I became a principal PM. I'm not writing that many Jira tickets anymore. More junior PMs do that, and sometimes
Mhm.
engineers and not product managers, do that. I find myself working more on strategy, on vision, and owning not just the feature, but owning the whole set of products. So not just one
Yeah.
product, but the whole initiative. So you kind of level up and think about bigger, more ambiguous problems, because
Yeah.
it's one thing to build a new button or launch a new onboarding screen, and another thing is partnering with the vendor for something like I don't know, product analytics, or launching a new business line like I don't know, services, jobs, or understanding what we need to build to
Mhm.
onboard enterprise customers if you're in B2B software. So the more
Yeah.
senior you become, the more of these ambiguous problems you have to deal with. So again, you're
Yeah.
not building features, you actually start building real products and sets of products. That's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So when you were like talking about like building these products, right? So there's like two sections of it. Like one, that we are building new products which are like brand new, which have their own set of like action items to work with. And the second is if you're launching any updates or like any new features in an existing product. So one of the major things that people generally talk about when designing products, either like an entirely new one or like adding features to a product, they talk about metrics, right? Like they talk about okay, how do we measure the metric that we are building for these products? And the other section is with prioritization methods. So that's something which has been like a little tricky part for like most of the people to understand. So, do you want to maybe shed some light on prioritization methods? How are they measured? How do they reflect back on the products that you're building?
Sure, sure. So I think that's the part where data skills become very useful. Again, I would say data skills and business skills in general, because even if you suck at metrics but you understand the business, you'll have, I wouldn't say intuition, again, probably comes from experience, but you'll have a better understanding of what needs to be prioritized and what metrics need to be selected. But
Yeah,
if you know how to analyze data, if you know how to leverage your data analysis skills, your internal analysts, your data science team, uh, this will give you a leg up, simply because you can make decisions based on data. Making decisions based on data is a lot easier than just relying on gut feeling,
yeah, yeah.
right? So, again, I can go into prioritization frameworks, right? So, for example, the simplest framework for prioritization is stack ranking. Just again, for every feature you're trying to build, first of all, you need to understand the problem you're solving,
Mm-hmm.
size of the problem, and and give it like a t-shirt size, like
Yeah,
S,
yeah,
L, XL, XXL, right? And based on that, you can prioritize. And this is like the simplest high-level method of prioritization.
yeah.
There is also a framework I really like. It's called RICE, where you
Mm-hmm.
basically build an equation, and you incorporate reach, impact, and other things, and based on that you calculate the score, and then you just prioritize all the features based on the score. But one important thing to understand here is, like, first of all, are you trying to solve a customer problem or a company problem, right? This is what a lot of people, they see this, like what a lot of people get wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They Some product managers, especially more junior PMs, they think like, oh, I just need to think about customers and prioritize their problems. But don't forget that you're working for a business, and business needs to make money, right?
Yeah,
So sometimes you'll have to sacrifice something, to help the business grow. Like, for example, maybe showing more ads,
yeah,
or helping sales team sell your product better, right? So first of all, you
yeah.
need to understand, are you solving customer problem or company problem? Then
Company.
you need to pick a framework that will allow you to estimate the size of the problem, and things like, okay, how much time would it take us to solve this problem?
Yeah,
How many engineering resources, like data science resources, design resources, right? And then when you know the size of the problem, potential gains, and how much resources it will take to solve the problem, you will be able to solve this problem successfully, just because you have enough data to tackle it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So when you were like talking about like getting into like these skill sets, a lot of skill sets for product managers seem to be coming with experience, right? So
Mhm.
what could be some of the like how does a learning curve look like for a product manager, and like how can people start upskilling themselves to be a good product managers?
hmm Yeah, I would say for most people, it's all over the place, right? There is no right or wrong way to do this, and it also depends on the company you work for, and products and features you build. But generally, if you want to become more senior, you need to start thinking more about the vision, strategy, and higher level problems, and stop probably not the right word, but write less Jira tickets and do less hand holding with your engineering, design, and data teams.
Yeah,
That's how you become more senior, if you start focusing on bigger problems. And if you look at like, I think this concept applies to pretty much any career, not just product manager. Like, even if you're an engineer, if you're a junior engineer, again, you're probably going to be recoloring buttons, setting margins to like 5 pixel left, 10
yeah,
pixel right, maybe adding some third-party snippets, stuff like that. But as you become more senior, you start building more complex features, maybe your own frameworks, and then you start dealing with some scaling issues. You solve these problems. So like again, the size of the problems you solve becomes bigger, and it applies to product management as well. So I would say start thinking more strategically, try to solve bigger problems, and do less hand holding with your stakeholders.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what could be like some of the hard skills that people can learn? Like, do you have any recommendations with respect to like books or courses that people can do and like get a hang of it before getting into the team?
Yeah. So shameless plug. I provide consulting, and I just started doing coaching. So again, I can do that. But again, if you're not interested in that, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, because again, I don't accept everybody. I know it's not for everybody, but just wanted to say that. And besides that, obviously, I think one of the books that really influenced me is the famous book "Cracking the PM Interview"
Mhm.
by I think Gail McDowell is this lady's name. She wrote the book, so it kind of gives you all the basics that you need. I think if you read that book, multiple times and apply the advice, you can land like more like a intern or junior PM level role.
Okay.
But if you want to upskill again, I would recommend reading more thematic things like articles from senior PMs, product VPs. So again, I would say that it depends on your goal. Like there are lots of books on the market, and they all say pretty much the same thing in most cases.
Yeah.
But once you become more, so read the books like Cracking the PM Interview. There is also Decode and Conquer
Mhm.
by Lewis Lynn. Great books. But yeah, once you become more senior, you need to dive deeper into specific aspects. So I recommend reading, Medium blogs and articles from more famous PMs.
That's amazing. So, Vlad, there were multiple books that you mentioned, so I might just take a note of those books from you later on and add that in the description below, so that people can just like click on the links and see which books that you recommended.
Of course.
And following that up with your experience as a manager, like you've been in this space for like quite some time. So, based on your experiences, I have two questions for you. One is, what is the most exciting part of being a product manager that you love the most? And second, what's the most challenging part of being a product manager?
Yeah, good question. And I think like a few weeks ago, I actually did a little post on LinkedIn about that. Best part about being product manager, you talk to everyone. Worst part about being a product manager, you talk to everyone. So yeah, you definitely start interacting with more people. Again, you manage a lot of stakeholders.
Yeah.
You talk to customers, so you really start talking a lot. So it's at the same time it's good and bad thing. So I would say this is not for everybody. But the reason why I became a PM, and again, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I'm a former software engineer. So I quickly realized that I just don't I like building stuff,
Mhm.
but I don't necessarily enjoy coding for 8 hours a day,
Got it.
but I
Yeah.
like building. And at the same time, I like talking to customers, and I love the business side. So I think that's like most people I talk to, people who become product managers, they find themselves, you know, they love building, but they don't quite belong to design or data science or engineering or marketing or sales or anything. So they find themselves in the middle of all that, and they become product managers because as a product manager, you're somewhat a jack of all trades. But I think most great product managers, they're more like T-shaped, where they know a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
but at the same time they have deep expertise in something, again, like design, software engineering, science, analysis,
Yeah.
whatever, right? So yeah. Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. And one of the probably like the last questions that I have for you today is that what's your like top advice that you would want to give for people who want to like step into the field of product management?
yeah. Again, if you're new, I would say just study the basics. If you have like if you're a student or you're looking for your first job in technology and you think product management is for you, again, first of all, make sure that this is for you. Again, I think it's not for everybody. Study the basics. Learn product management skills and frameworks. If you're a transitioner from like data science, design, or other roles, again, you probably know a lot about technology industry already. So at this point, your goal would be to fill in the gaps, like, find the skills that you're missing and close the gap. Like, for example, if you're a designer, probably I would assume your data analysis skills might not be super great, and maybe your understanding of technology might not be like super great. But again, everyone's different. That's, again, just based on my experience, what I found. If you're an analyst, on the other hand, you might not have good understanding of design, right? Or you don't have understanding of strategic trends, right? And as a product manager, you kind of need to know a little bit of everything. So once you fill in these gaps, you will be well, you'll be better positioned to land a job as a product manager, and also learn how to talk to people and manage stakeholders.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely true. So yeah, thank you so much, and I would definitely like to have your link about the training and like the coaching that you mentioned that you give. So I will be adding all those links to the description of this video. This will be again out on YouTube later on for people to watch. So yeah, I'll be adding any resources that you provide me with, and like people can refer to it later.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for
Great.
having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vlad. It was great chatting with you. Like having a perspective from you, like you've been working through different companies in this particular role. You've seen different kinds of products which you've worked on, and all these companies which you've worked with have different business goals, right? So it's very insightful to hear your experiences and your learnings from these experiences. So thank you so much for taking out time and explaining a lot of questions which generally are left unanswered on the internet. So thank you so much for addressing them and like walking us through your journey.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and yeah, I hope this helps someone land a job in product.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, Lal.